Good morning, everyone. I'm Tara Gillam, Services Innovation Manager at Business West, and welcome to our autumn webinar and thought leadership series, Innovate 2021, Overcoming Challenges and Building for Growth, supported by Business West and Innovate UK. This series of webinars are running every Tuesday morning throughout the autumn, covering topics from IP, design thinking, funding and finance, leadership strategy and sales and marketing, as well as promoting the wider bespoke service available from us and how we can add value to your future growth plans in this challenging environment. Today is our 9th webinar in this series and the first of 2 webinars covering business strategy. Today's webinar is titled Business Strategy Part 1, Checking Your Own Bias, and is delivered by one of our expert advisors, Phil Telwright. As a participant of Innovate 2021 and subject to Innovate UK eligibility criteria, there is the opportunity to access our comprehensive range of business support services, which include strategy advice. I will discuss the next steps on how to access these services at the end of the session. Now, before I hand you over to Phil, there is just a bit of housekeeping I'd like to talk through. If you have a question that you'd like to ask, please put that into the Q&A tab at the bottom. That will be moderated throughout. If you'd like to communicate with other attendees, please use the chat feature. That one's unmoderated. If you have any technical issues at all, please raise your hand and one of us will come and give you some assistance. For on demand, this webinar is being recorded. Your personal video and microphones will not be used unless invited to speak by the host. Now on to our speaker today. Over the past 30 years, Phil has held senior positions at leading Southwest businesses and was instrumental in the creation of Swain, the UK's most successful regional business angel network. Although an accountant by profession, Phil's main strength is his creative approach to developing and delivering value-creating support to business clients. Phil is a qualified business coach and has previously worked with Innovate UK to deliver strategy workshops on scaling rapidly. So without further ado, I'll put you in the capable hands of Phil.
Morning, everybody. Thank you for those kind words, Tara, and welcome to the next 25 minutes or half hour, looking really at business strategy and in particular, as the title suggests, about how bias can have a significant impact on this. It's a little bit of a challenge for me to put together a short webinar which will cover all the various business types that are out there. In many respects, one size fits nobody. So to a large extent, I think we're going to be talking about some generalities. There will be the opportunity to, through the questions and later on, to dive into things more specific to individual companies. So where do we start? I suppose through my whole business life, it's become very apparent that the one thing we can be certain of is that change will always be there. This guy was around about 500 BCE. I think he made some comment or other about never stepping into the same river twice, but there is absolutely no doubt that change is all around us. And of course, that change has not served a large number of companies very well. The screen shows lots of logos of businesses which have struggled, their business models have failed, their boards have not been competent enough to manage their business through the challenges they faced. And we've got a lot of very large boards here with many highly qualified people, but they've actually not been able to stem the tide. I suppose the two biggest influences we've seen recently are the growth in online shopping, which has led to the demise of the high street and many of the previous retail businesses you have seen. And of course, we've got coronavirus with us as well, and that stopped many people in their tracks. So what is a business strategy? In my view, a very much overused phrase, and my suggested answer, it's how an organization plans to continue to create, deliver, and capture value. And the emphasis there very, very much on the continuation of that delivery. I've often thought, I've sat on a number of boards of directors, been involved with many organizations, and in many ways I think you can say that the principal role of a board of directors is to find out the company's weaknesses before the opposition do. And we need a framework for this. Before looking at a framework, let's look at Whitbread. Let's look at a company which I think has changed significantly. If I ask many of you what Whitbread does, a lot of you, I think, and I've used this example in live sessions, would say, well, they sell beer. Well, they used to, and they used to sell many drinks brands. In fact, they sold their gin range, Beefeater, to Allied Lions in 1989. They then sold their beers to Interbrew in 2001. And finally, they sold their pub estate to Enterprise Inns in 2002. What have they done since then? They've moved into coffee and they've moved into hotels. In fact, they then sold Costa to Coca-Cola, as you can see, in 2019. So despite the fact that they remain a FTSE 100 company, Whitbread have completely transformed themselves. I've no doubt that the coronavirus has damaged their Premier Inn activities and results at the present time. But this is an example of a company which has single-mindedly set out to change direction as it has foreseen changes in the marketplace. Something else I want to throw in here for you to bear in mind as we go through the presentation is that, in my view, in my experience, boards of directors can really only affect about 20% of the factors which influence a company. I think there is a huge amount going on in this huge white segment of stuff, changes in technology, changes in markets, the appearance of viruses, changes in internet that you just can't do anything about. All we can do is influence and control and run about 20% of the factors. So if you think about it that way, boards have got to get an awful lot right in that 20% in order to make a difference. And that is really the size of the task facing everybody. And one final thought, if we look top left here, a lot of people have a very good idea of where they've come from. Even today, many companies still don't produce timely management information, timely accounts, but nevertheless, they think they've got a reasonable idea of where they've come from. If we turn around and look through the windscreen, very few companies have the view on the left. Most have the view on the right. Driving in fog, in heavy rain, not really quite sure what lies ahead. Whitbread clearly had a very clear idea of what lay ahead, and how they wanted to tackle it. So how do we go about it? What can we do? And here's my framework. Now, this is based on a book by a friend of mine, a chap called John Mullins. John Mullins is Professor of Entrepreneurship at London Business School, and he wrote a book which has been published in a number of editions called the New Business Road Test. And what Mullins looked at was really macro factors and micro factors. And then he looked at the market focus and the industry focus. The market focus is all about customers. It's about the people who buy your product or service. The industry is all about how what you do works, who your competitors are, what kind of business model you've got. Now let's fill these gaps in. In terms of market attractiveness, let's go here. Let's go here. One more thing to consider before we look at market attractiveness. On the right, we've got a three-dimensional model. This is a very interesting little mock-up. And if you look at the diagram on the left, depending upon how you view this three-dimensional model, it will appear to be three completely different shapes. If you look at this from above, it appears to be a triangle. If you look at it from the side, it appears to be a square in profile. And if you look at it straight on, it appears to be a circle. And I want to keep returning to this theme as we work through the framework. So if we look at large markets to start with, there's a thing called a pestle analysis. It's got a number of different names, looking at the political and legal background that the business find itself in. It looks at the social and cultural changes that are going on. This is based around, these examples are obviously based around the food industry. It looks at underlying economic and demographic changes. And it also considers technological changes. And we go back to Heraclitus and we go back to change being a constant factor. And these are all things which you as business founders, entrepreneurs, and boards of directors simply can't do anything about. The government changes employment law or labeling, and you have to comply. If you look at changes in lifestyle, in diet and obesity, the market demand is different. And if you look at technology, RFID, identification of things, there is nothing that any of us can do about any of these factors. People, I think, ignore these at their peril. So we looked at the large side, and to continue to do that, you'll find these phrases bandied around. Is there an understanding of the total addressable market, the serviceable one, which is the one that your products might be applicable to, and in the smallest case, the immediate customer base that you are targeting. Investors will want to know about that, and certainly when the sales director, the marketing director is looking at the targets, it's that smallest circle that is going to be top of the list. In terms of developing into new markets, there are really four ways in which companies can grow. The Ansoff matrix has been around for a long, long time. I still find that it is very, very useful for people to consider the ways in which they are going to grow. So again, typical sort of business school type thing. We've got a 2x2 matrix, and everybody starts off in this top left-hand corner where they are delivering to their existing market, and they are delivering their existing product. Everybody sells what they're selling to the customers they currently have. Now, if we have four ways to grow, firstly, we could sell more of what we're selling to the same sorts of people, and we could just take a bigger market share. We could sell our existing products, go back, sell our existing products into new markets. And I suppose the classic is exporting overseas. We could look at our existing market and sell some new products into it. Are we selling paper? We could sell pencils. Or we could do something completely different, and we could look at a new market and we could sell a new product into it. And as this graded color scheme suggests, this bottom right hand square is by far the most risky. Classic thinking would be ignore this one. This is usually quite difficult to do, but it's the easy place to start. And then it's a choice strategically of which way to go. Looking at a real life example, this is a store called Fresh and Easy. Fresh and Easy was owned by Tesco, and it was founded or it was opened in about 2007 in the United States. By 2007, Tesco had got about 1,300 stores in 12 countries, and then they decided to take on the big one. The story of Fresh and Easy is not a happy one for Tesco. Bear in mind that Tesco have a board of directors and advisors which is enormous. Probably 2 or 3 firms of large accountants involved. Goodness knows how many advisors and consultants. And do you know what? Tesco sell food. They sell groceries, and they've sold them in the UK primarily since 1947, and they decided they'd have a crack at the States. And it really turned out to be a bit of a disaster for a number of reasons. Tesco put about 30 people primarily into the West, into California, Arizona, and Nevada, and they set up these neighborhood markets. But they did not understand their market. And if you think about those 3 viewpoints of our little shape, they had very definitely their own viewpoint. They thought they knew about groceries. They thought they knew about retailing food. And so what did they do? They set up something very similar to Tesco, or at least their smaller convenience stores in the US. And they made a number of, well, it's easy with hindsight, but a huge number of mistakes. For a start, these stores were smaller, typically about 20% of the size of American supermarkets, hypermarkets. They thought that people would want to shop on a daily basis, and Americans tend, they still do, but they certainly tended then to have a weekly shop. Americans wanted to get everything pretty well under one roof, whereas this was a convenience store. somewhere that you might call into on your way home. There was an emphasis on ready meals, which in the UK and in Europe is a big selling point. Americans tend not to do ready meals as much. They certainly didn't then. What they do is they either take out or they cook at home. Tesco also put quite a lot of Fresh and Easy own brand into their shops, and the Americans prefer branded products. And then in 2008, what happened was that the recession came along. The West Coast was hit, or at least the West was hit harder than the rest of the US, and people no longer wanted fresh and easy stuff. What they wanted was cheap stuff. And so they've got the Walmarts and the big competitors, and they got a brand which said we are cheap. And Tesco's Fresh and Easy failed. They sold it. They had cumulative losses of about 1.5 billion, which is not bad when you consider the quality of their board and their advisors. So anybody can make mistakes. And an outfit called Ukaipa bought it. Tesco then compounded things by actually loaning them $120 million further, and 2 years later that was closed. The interesting thing from my perspective is that Sainsbury's exited the US in 2004 and M&S exited in 2006. So if we go back a slide, we've got probably Tesco thinking that they were moving from the existing product into a new market, taking what they'd always believed would be very straightforward. And if we look over here, it's supposed to be low risk. So they didn't think they were being terribly brave. But if we think of our three colors, what they'd not done was they failed to understand their market properly. Too much focus on solution, not enough focus by half on need and generating value for the customer. Moving on to the second box, having looked at markets, industry attractiveness. Again, a very well tried and tested model. Michael Porter was a lecturer at Harvard Business School in the late 70s. A number of Swain investors still run ideas past this one. And essentially Porter recognized that there were 5 forces which defined a company's sustainable competitive advantage. He looked essentially, I'll run through them very quickly in a bit more detail later, at the bargaining power of suppliers. If you have only one supplier, they have the whip hand. The bargaining power of customers. Similarly, if you've only got one customer, they have the whip hand. You think about Woolworths and all the stuff that they sold, really no cost advantage to that. Threat of substitutes coming in. People can achieve that value in a different way, and a threat of new entrants, people coming along and taking part of the turf. And finally, he recognized that some markets are just tougher than others. So looking at new entrants into a market, the threat from this is that we've got no real economies of scale. Just imagine you are sort of white van man and you're doing labeling for the side of commercial vehicles. You can buy yourself a machine that does this pretty cheaply. Customers really don't mind who supplies their plastic advertising. There are no barriers whatsoever, and industry regulation is low. If you're in a market like this, probably new people are going to come in. Rivalry, Porter's fifth one. Grow is slow or declining. Think about Aldi, I guess, and Lidl, who've come in. Competitors are desperate. Well, yes, the multi grocers did get themselves into a bit of a problem. Occasionally, the business can be strategically important for its owner, so they just don't want to let go, and they will sort of fight to the last quid before they give up. Exit barriers can be high because they can't get out. Little or no product differentiation, and again, customer switching costs are low. The traditional industry, which people always cite when looking at rivalry being low, are undertakers. That was always a very gentlemanly business, and in recent years, you've seen the change in the rivalry that's grown in that industry. Customer power is really all about numbers and how many of them there are. Again, we've got switching costs. Substitutes, I say here, not always obvious. And under coronavirus, the middle one, I suppose, drinking at home is a substitute for going to the pub. And one wonders just how strongly pubs will come back when hopefully we get through this. So we've looked at the top two. Sustainable advantage. And people talk about business models. Now this is the classic. This was produced by Alex Osterwalder a number of years ago. Innovate UK really like this. If you look at their suggested contents for business plans, you will find that many of these thoughts are here. And to go forward, we've actually got a guy called Ash Mayura who produced a lean canvas, probably more related to early stage software technology businesses, but still really looking at similar things. Let's go back and just have a look at this one. And if people are asking, where is my strategy? What is my strategy? We've looked at the background through the pestle kind of thing. We've looked at the market, and now we're looking at the industry and that big picture. 9 boxes on a sheet. A lot of people see this. Nowhere near as many understand, I think, quite how it should be used. I'm going to go, it's not quite so easy to do this without being in a workshop forum. But let's imagine that we're going to try and analyze, let's say, a coffee shop business. We have a value proposition. We always start in the middle with this, and it's what we deliver. We deliver value to people, and we might think, well, actually, they just want a good cup of coffee. So quality of coffee is going to be really important. And who do we deliver it to? We deliver it to people on the high street. We've got our retail operation set up, and people generally give us some brand loyalty. Key activities on this side, well, we have to make good coffee and keep the place clean. Key resources, we need a coffee shop and some coffee making equipment. Haven't really got too many partners. We charge by the cup, and we got a cost structure. And provided that this exceeds this, we've got a sustainable business model. And so people map their business out on it. So what? Well, let's say that I put a proposition to somebody that says, let's change the revenue stream. At the moment, it's a simple transaction. I go in, I give somebody some cash, and they give me a cup of coffee. Really straightforward. What if I said, how can you run a coffee shop based not on an exchange of money, but on, I don't know, a rental value maybe, a rental stream. So we've gone from money exchange to rental. Could anybody think of a way that you might do that? And people would say, Phil's lost the plot. You're crazy. There's no way you could rent anything here. Some people say rent the cup and things like that, but really not thinking it through to that deeply. What I'm going to suggest is that, in fact, there are a number of coffee shops, many inside the M25, but increasingly moving outside, who don't charge for their coffee. They simply charge for how long people are in the shop. And possibly the reason that is because if we were not doing this by webinar, but we'd had a business meeting in a coffee shop, we've gone there for a meeting. We are not actually interested in how nice the coffee is. It's a nice to have, but we really want a lot of other things. We want some privacy. In our value proposition, we want some privacy. We want a flat surface. We might want Wi-Fi. We want a comfortable seat. There's a load of things that we want, but we don't necessarily want privacy. We don't necessarily want good coffee. If then we change to this model and we say we're going to charge by the length of time people are in there, what key activities do we need? Our key activities now include recording the length of time that people are in the shop. And the key resources will now include a way of measuring and capturing that time. And it may mean that we need somebody else in order to do that. That is going to in turn affect our cost structure. But we might find that our revenue stream will go up, because instead of each person buying 2 cups of espresso for £2.50 a time and spending a total of £5, that we've actually generated £20 worth of time-based income. So the real benefit of this canvas for me at board level is to play different tunes on, to ask lots of what if questions and scenarios, all with a view to the bottom 2 boxes of, can we increase our revenue streams and what is the impact on our cost structure? Now, I think I'm going to leave it there. We've been going for about the right amount of time. There is a second part to this seminar next week, and we will look at alternative models, and we will look at building shareholder value. So I hope that has been a useful introduction for you to the background behind putting a business strategy together, and I'm looking forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Phil. Okay, questions. I suppose a lot of understanding has come from getting to really know your customer and your market, and especially if you're looking to diversify into new overseas markets, that understanding their culture and their buying habits may be a little bit different. Is there any real one tip that you have with regards to, how you kind of understand your customers a little bit more?
It's a good question, and in many ways it's the fundamental question. Steve Blank, who wrote a book pretty well about customer development, talks about getting out through your own front door. He talks about CEOs, founders talking and engaging with their market, running ideas past them, and not simply believing that their view, going back to our perspectives, Tara, that their view of life is the only way. The answers lie in engagement. Tesco tried it in the West. They put 30 people out there, and they were right to do that. So that's the answer. But interestingly, in that case, despite their money, despite their resources, they got it wrong, but they did the right thing.
Okay. And just to give a little bit of a highlight, obviously, business model canvas within our world, working with Innovate, it's quite a key document. Would you kind of look, if you're a business that's looking to go into new markets, do you kind of build an overall business model canvas and then do different ones for different projects? Or would you look at it, it's trying to link it a little bit more in, got a good idea, want to diversify, would you do a completely new one for the new business idea, or would you try and link it back to your main core?
Again, a very relevant question. And the answer is that for each market segment, each solution, you would do a completely separate canvas, because the value proposition would change depending on the customer segment that you are aiming at. So you cannot really do a canvas for the whole business unless you've got a very simple business and you've got one main service or one main product, or okay, closely grouped set.
Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant. Well, you must have covered really well, because I've got no other questions coming in at the moment. Or whether or not they're in hot anticipation for next week. You never know. Will you go more into the value proposition next week, or that isn't your plan?
No, bit more into the value proposition next week, and also into building shareholder value.
Brilliant. Okay. Oh,
one
speak of the devil. Yeah, just noticed. Andrew Taylor's just asked, can this canvas be applied to product development based businesses where customers are replaced by distributors?
Yes, it can. Very definitely. It becomes slightly more complicated because the middle customer is not the ultimate customer, and in terms of building value, you have to look at that as a two-stage process. But certainly, following this seminar, very happy to sort of explore that in a little bit more detail, Tara.
Brilliant. Okay, we gave this next feedback a go last week, and we're going to give it another try again. So working with Innovate UK and this series being Innovate 2021, we're using a feedback tool called Slideto. So if you point your phone to the QR code on the screen, you should get a pop-up asking to take you to a website. And on there, we want to get your live feedback with regards to the webinar. Alternatively, you can just log into the slido.com and put in the actual access code at the bottom to kind of put in. And as you can see, live feedback is kind of coming up on the screen. So as you tap in your answer, we kind of get the responses come up on the screen. Oh, mirrors, quite good. And there's 3 questions we're going to ask on here. So the first one is what you found beneficial. The next question, and the app will automatically take you to the next question as well. Our second question is a poll, and how would you rate communications and format of the webinar? And this one I like because you see the bars going up and down. And then the more critical question, personally for me, kind of like facilitating these webinars and making sure we're hitting the right topics, is what topics would you like to see us cover in the future? We're coming to the end of this 12-week tranche, but we will be looking at doing something in the new year. So we just want to make sure we're hitting the topics that people actually find beneficial to their business.